What's going on, everybody on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have another Real Talk podcast. I know it's been a little while since the last one. Today we are having the pleasure of speaking with the Super Battle Road King on YouTube. He has been on the platform for a while. He's destroyed a lot of races. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself, man?
Yo, how's it going, everyone? It is indeed me, the Master Ningen. I'm very happy to be here and just chat some interesting stuff.
Yeah, of course, and thank you so much for coming on. I know over there you do work an overnight shift, so coming on, it's. I'm sure you're tired, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like the equivalent of if for anyone listening out there, it's like if you woke up if say you start work at 9 and you wake up at 7 before work. It's the equivalent of that because it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon for me at the moment, but I only woke up like an hour ago because I have work from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. So
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for making the time for you to come on, and I hope work does go well tonight. So, like I do in all these podcasts, I love just hearing what my guest loves, and the one thing that you briefly mentioned to me was metal music. So, tell me a bit about your your taste in metal music.
Well, it was something I found interesting because obviously after you reached out to me and then obviously you got involved with the 59 gaming stuff as well. I listened to a couple of the episodes because I not just because I was intrigued to see what this was all about, but also just because I wanted to know a bit more about some of these other people as well. And I noticed that was kind of like a running theme that you guys talked about, and it was like, oh, I didn't realize so many of these other guys were into like metal and like some of the stuff, it was still bands and like sub-genres of metal that I wouldn't necessarily say I was the biggest fan of, but it was like, oh, cool. It's always good to know that like other people are into that same sort of alternative, I guess is like the broad umbrella like scene. Because over here in the UK, like the alternative scene, I guess it probably is big in certain places, especially like London, because places like Camden are famous for having like the big market with all the goth stuff and stuff like that. But like where I grew up, like the alternative scene was incredibly small, and I'm talking like, you know, me and my couple of friends were the group of kids that when we were like 15 and 16 we were getting bullied at school because we wore band hoodies, whereas everybody else was like what you guys would call like a jock, I guess. But so yeah, it's always cool for me like meeting other people who are part of this community that I'm now part of that are also into those same kind of things as well. So
Yeah,
um
it is interesting, right? Like you, for me, example, I've been watching you guys for probably like the last year or 2 years already, and you don't really get to know somebody till like you actually do one of these conversations because in our videos, I mean, all we kind of do is talk about Dokkan. So it's always cool to kind of take a break and a step back from that and just kind of talk about
mm,
yourself a bit. And yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Hearing about like the culture over there in the UK sounds pretty fun, actually. I'm sure you got a lot of fun stories from back in the day. So as of right now, what bands are you currently listening to?
oh man, so I definitely have a very, I know everybody says this. I feel like I remember Social Fire saying this as well on your previous episode. Like everybody says this, but like I'm into so many different things. Like my missus loves metal as well, and even we argue about like certain bands that she likes and I don't. But my like I go into quite a lot of other genres as well, because like I say, with for me when I was younger I never really listened to music a lot. Like aside from, you know, like my dad would have a CD on in the car, like other than that kind of thing, I never really listened to music because for me, again, this is even right up to when I was like 14, 15. I would hear like, you know, the chart music like on the radio and just be like, this all kind of sucks. And then I think it was around the time I was like 15, it was when Blink 182's All the Small Things came out and it was on the radio. And obviously, I mean, in terms of, you know, the grand scale of metal, we're still talking super low, like much closer to pop. But like when I first heard that, I was like, oh, a song on the radio that I actually like. So I used to wait for that to be on like every evening. It was like one particular radio station that like would pretty much play the same track list. Um, and then, yeah, when I started to meet new friends, when I went on to secondary school. It's like our like later years of high school for you guys, I guess, when I was like 16. That's when I first met some people that then introduced me to bands like The Offspring. They were like the first big band that I got into. Because
Okay.
obviously only ever having heard like radio chart music before, then my friend showed me like, you know, the whatever the latest Offspring album was at the time. I can't remember. But you know, it was all songs that were actually about things that I could sort of identify with and had like bad language in. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't know music could be like this.
Yeah.
And then literally straight from there, went straight head first down the rabbit hole, and got into bands like Slipknot. I'm trying to think of all the really early bands like Soulfly. I got really lucky, in fact, because a lot of people, I guess it's a question for anyone who enjoys music, is which is the first like live show that you went to. And I literally just went, like I said, dived in head first. The first live show I went to wasn't even like a single gig. It was Ozfest, like the all day festival.
Oh my
Um,
God, how was that?
so that was in like 90, right, no, 2000 was it 2000 or 2001? I can't remember, but it was like headlined obviously by Ozzy, like Black Sabbath. You had like Mudvayne, Disturbed, Papa Roach, Slipknot. Yeah, that was insane. It was like the first live event I'd ever went to, and it was an all-day festival, so it was pretty awesome. So I was converted, and I was baggy jeans and hoodies from then on. So although I feel like people who've actually seen what I look like when you've come to the odd streams where I use face cam and stuff, I feel like people would probably guess that I'm into metal, considering I have like really long hair and a beard.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna ask you about the long hair because I noticed like in your King PNG that you sent me, that you had long hair, and I was like, oh damn, dude, this guy's rocking it too. That's sick, man. That's how long's your beard right now?
my beard is not super long. I mean, I don't know when this will go up, but when the 59 Gaming, the third Among Us like stream, I finally got to take part in that because the other two I was working, and I'm using my face cam. So whenever this video goes up, if that video is up on the 59 Gaming channel, that was literally recorded last night. But I get my beard trimmed fairly regularly, so it's not like super bushy, but
Okay,
it
okay.
is quite thick. But yeah, my hair is incredibly long. I don't think I've had, aside from like getting maybe half an inch to an inch like trimmed off the bottom, I haven't had like what you would call a proper haircut for probably like 15 years at this point. So
Dude, that's sick.
my
That's
hair
sick.
is almost like halfway down my back. So
Oh, that's awesome, man. Hell yeah. Are you kidding?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just one of those things because not only music like wise, but because I've always been into like video games and anime and stuff as well when I was younger, you always saw like super cool badass protagonists with long hair. So I've never been one of those people that's like, oh, long hair's for girls. Like even when I was super young, I was like, wow, that guy's got long hair and he looks like a badass. So when I finally got to the point where I think I was like 17 or 18, just going to college, I was like, yeah, I'll grow my hair. And I pretty much haven't cut my hair since then. So
Yeah, no, I unfortunately haven't had long hair in my later years in life, but when in high school, yeah, I used to have my hair down to like halfway my back. But the thing
nice.
is, my hair is like really curly, so
Ah.
it wouldn't look that long. But whenever I ironed it, which I would iron it pretty regularly, um, it was pretty cool, dude, and I kind of miss it, right? I mean, one of my friends, probably in the same boat as you, he has not cut his hair in the last, and I met him when we were 14. I'm 26 now. In the last 12 years, he hasn't cut it. So yeah, his hair is ridiculously long. He has amazing genetics, so his hair is a straight. Is your hair very straight?
Yeah, my hair's pretty straight,
Dude, that's
so
sick.
I'm
That's
quite
the
lucky.
best. You guys have the Viking look, bro. I'm sure you look like a Viking out there. and
Yeah, I
yeah,
couldn't imagine like not having long hair anymore. I
yeah,
yeah, I love the way it looks. It's a pain in the ass sometimes to take care of, but you know, that's the other thing though that I do like. I took a little bit of self pride in. I know there's this sort of like stereotype that when you get like, you know, like the greasy metaler stereotype where it's like you got long hair, but it's, you know, dank and disgusting or whatever. So I went from the time I started growing my hair, I've always made sure to take care of it. So like washing it regularly, using like product in it or whatever. So
You use
the funny
horse
thing is,
shampoo?
yeah, so I've got like shampoos and conditioner, all that sort of stuff.
Cool,
Because
cool.
if I'm gonna have long hair, you gotta take care of it. You don't want to look like a tramp.
Yeah,
And
true.
it's quite funny because I've had a lot of jobs before the job that I'm in now. And obviously I don't mean YouTube; it's not my full time job. But I've worked in retail a lot, and it's quite funny because I'd always have like older women just be like, "Oh, your hair's so nice. How do you get your hair so nice?" So
I wash it.
yeah, exactly. It's like I actually take care of it. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't imagine ever having short hair again. If I ever hit that dreaded point when I get older and start to go bald on top, I'm just going to do a Hulk Hogan and constantly wear a bandana so people still think I've got beautiful, luscious hair.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's not. You could definitely get away with it, man. You could definitely get away with it. Yeah,
Exactly. If you go bald on top, just wear a hat.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And I see a lot of guys rocking that, so it's not a bad idea, man. It's not a bad idea in the slightest to do something like that. Um, no, that's sick, dude. You see, I had no idea about all this stuff. So, like you mentioned, YouTube is not, unfortunately, it's not your full time job. Which I hope it does become a full time job for you because I mean, you've been grinding this just as hard as all the other guys, in your like spatial realm. I mean, you don't have to specify too much, but like when you went to school, right? Are
Mhm.
you like in the career field that you wanted to be in, or did you have like a dream career where you're not at right now?
No, not at all. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So when I picked my like subjects for the end of secondary school, because I don't know how it works in the US, but for us, when you get to the last part of secondary school, which is like 15 to 16, you have a bit more choice over the subjects that you do for like that last part of the year to get your like final qualifications in and stuff before you then think about going off to college or whatever. Um, I used to be super into like drama and stuff, and I honestly like had the idea that maybe one day I could be like an actor or something. So I did a lot of drama and like performing arts type stuff, like script writing, and actually like my final project for the year was me and a couple of other people like performed a play that I wrote the script for. Um, but then, yeah, obviously, I guess like as most people know, that is an industry that's pretty much impossible to get into. And I kind of, it wasn't really like a passion, like a dream. It was just kind of oh, I could probably do this. That would be kind of cool. And then, like by the time I finished secondary school and I'd got into that like angsty teenager phase, I was just like, I don't really care. So it's like when I went to college, I decided to focus on doing like IT sort of stuff because it was already becoming very apparent that that was the way forward. Like if you wanted a good job once you'd left school and stuff, you needed to know IT stuff. So I kind of transitioned into that very late. And whilst I do technically, like I work in IT now, but it's basically nothing to do with like the stuff that I did at school. So I was very much like a aimless kind of teenager. I was that guy that it used to really annoy me because I was that guy that like the teachers would always complain to my parents and be like, "Oh, he could do so well if only he applied himself." And it was like, "Yeah, but I just don't care."
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I definitely feel that one, man. I was always in the kind of like in a similar boat. I didn't know what to do. I had decent grades, and till this day, I've just kind of winged my entire life.
yep, I was absolutely that guy doing his homework in the period before it was due, like the next lesson, sat at the back of the class, like in one lesson, quickly doing my homework that's supposed to be in for the lesson that's going to start in like 20 minutes. So
Yeah,
I kind of wish I maybe had applied myself a little bit more sometimes when I think about it, but then at the same time, I also feel like it doesn't really matter that much because I know this is kind of going off on a bit of a tangent, but
no,
like
you're good. You're good.
it bothers me now that I'm out of school and living in like the adult like world that when you're a kid you get told like when you're doing your final exams at like I guess for you guys for like high school, I don't know what those are called, but like the exams you take at the end, your
Yeah, yeah.
finals, I guess, like
We have midterms and
um
finals.
yeah, so you get told by your parents and your teachers and stuff. It's like, oh, this is really important. Like the grades that you get now, that's gonna like determine what job you can get when you leave and all this sort of stuff. And I did like reasonably okay in my final results. But like once you get like 4 or 5 years down the line, you're applying for jobs and stuff, and they don't even care what grades you got in like high school. So Like I feel like it's like none of that stuff was really important. I can't remember the last time in the last like 10 years I went to a job interview where they even asked me what grades I got at school. So I feel like it's a lot of pressure gets put on you at that younger age, and then it kind of isn't really completely necessary. So anyone who's younger listening to this though, stay in school. Don't just think I'm saying you can just bin off everything. But
Yeah,
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 don't put super amounts of pressure on yourself, because if you're going for a job, if your passion is something like IT and you're really good with computers, don't worry about the fact that like you're only getting like a C in English, because if you apply for a job at an IT company that you have the technical know-how for, they're not going to not hire you just because of that. So
yeah.
don't put too much pressure on yourself.
No, I completely agree, and definitely, I think that going to school now makes such a big difference in your career field. Because like for me, I mean, I never went to, I mean, I went to college, but I dropped out of college like 3 times. It just wasn't really for me, and I was
Mm.
always more about experience and jumping into like I always wanted to just kind of become like a jack of all trades. So I worked in the medical industry for about 4 years as a medical biller. I did insurance, I did medical records, like I handled a lot. I learned a lot of stuff in that. Then
Hmm.
I became a fraud investigator, which is completely left field, but I want to get more into like a legal side of things. And um, I worked for a big corporation for a couple years as well, doing that. And then those have been like my two main jobs. And then I did work as a contract labor for like an attorney and helped them out with like IMEs and stuff like that. So I've just been trying to throw myself in all these different career jobs to really just rack up my resume, because again, it's either you go to school or you get into a good field and you start racking up your resume, which I got another good job right now, which is I went back to the fraud investigation, but because I had experience in that, I was able to land it again.
Mm.
And what I always tell everybody, because especially with the young ones on here, um, just go to school, get your degree, because all the work I had to do for these last 8 years being out of high school to make, you know, uh, a decent living wage, right? It's not like I'm living in luxury by any means. My friends who went to college, who went for 4 years, they got out of college and started making 50 grand a year, out
Yeah.
of college. So that's like the big difference.
Hmm.
It took me a long time to hit that, right? So
Yeah.
um, I think school definitely helps. You don't need it, but just understand that if you don't want to go to school, you're gonna have to go the harder route and
Yeah.
really work hard jobs and you know.
Yeah, I think to clarify my point, because like I said, I don't want it to come off like I'm saying that school is not important, but like I feel like what you want to do, especially nowadays, is
Yeah,
if you have even a general idea of what it is you want to do, that's the kind of thing you want to focus on. And obviously, with the internet now being such an insanely like deep resource, there's all sorts of like even like free courses for like things that you can look into. Like again, I use IT as the example because that's like what I've moved into. But yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, whether it's hardware, software, networking, all that kind of stuff, there's like hundreds of hours of like even just YouTube videos. Like there's so much resource out there for you. And yeah, my main point from my previous story was I feel like when you're younger and you're in school, there's a lot of subjects that you have to do that are just not really
yeah,
important. And that was sort of my main. So like, don't get too bogged down with that stuff. Don't get too concerned. Like if you find yourself, if you're the kind of person you don't feel like you get on with school, but it's mainly because you're doing all these subjects that you just don't have any interest in, then yeah, just channel your time and your focus into the stuff you are interested in. Because yeah, there's so much of a resource now out there. Because like I remember when I was young, I'm not gonna, I don't know if I've ever given away the exact number, but I'm not gonna give away my exact age. But I'm one of the older people in the community, and I remember when my family got our first PC, and it had like the dial-up modem internet. So the internet now is nothing like it used to be, and there's just all this resource out there for you. So yeah, anything you're interested in, like it helps us even now. Like when I first got into like video editing and all that sort of stuff, the first thing I do, just go to YouTube, because someone will have made a tutorial on whatever it is that you're trying to learn. So all of that resource is available to you somewhere.
yeah, exactly. It is a completely different time period. I mean, you could learn so much. I mean, dude, everything's on the internet. Literally everything. I have a good friend of mine right now who's actually going to the IT industry because he, sees the money in it. He sees a lot of good growth with it. So what he actually did was he found a website where he could get one of his licenses and he could just take a test and not have to take the course. So he found another website where a guy actually posted his entire book and credentials for that test. And he's just been studying that, and he's about to take the test without having to actually take the course. So there's a lot of workarounds that you can do now that it's not like before where it takes like an entire year or 2 years to get like a license. Like for example, like in the
Mm.
U.S. to get a real estate license, you really just need 60 hours of school. So you could get your real estate license realistically in a month if you just sat down and did 8 hours a couple times a month. So
Yeah.
they've made it so much easier. The only thing, and I'm not sure how it is in the UK, but in the United States, dude, school is so ridiculously expensive. To give you an idea,
Yeah.
like all my friends who come out of school now with a bachelor's, they're typically about 50 grand in debt. I'm not sure how.
Oof.
Yeah, yeah, just for a piece of
Yeah.
paper.
So that's why I think, I guess the difference is, I think that's one of the reasons why I have this perspective of being a bit mad at the way like your learning is focused when you're a bit younger. Because over here we actually do get you get free education to a certain degree. So for us, our equivalent of high school, which we call secondary school, you leave when you're 16, and then if you go directly to college, like 16 to 18, and do like a 2 year course in whatever it is you choose to like specify in, that's usually free as well. But the problem is, if you say you pick the wrong thing and you don't get on with it and you drop out, or you say you decide you don't want to go to college straight away, you want to take a year out first or do whatever, after that, you have to pay for it. So I think that's where, like I said, it really affects you. If you don't have that sort of thing that you want to focus on and you just go and do like whatever subject and then you decide you don't get on with it or whatever, then if you want to do any more further education, then you have to pay for it. So, and I personally, I don't know a lot of people that went down that route. Like most of the people I know, we literally left school, went straight to college, left college, and then off you go into the world to make your way, I guess. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I mean, so how does that work exactly? Like, do you guys get? So you said 1 year of free tuition?
so it's usually it's two. I don't know all the specifics because, like I say, I only went for like the 2 years after I left my secondary school. But as long as you were like a school leaver going straight to one of these courses, it was free. And then I think they even do, I don't know if they still do this because again, this is like we're years down the line now from when I went. Um, but even if you'd only been, say, a couple of years from leaving school and then you wanted to come back and do something, um, they would have like massively sort of reduced rates. I think it's only once you hit like 21, 22, something like that, it was then a lot of you're considered like a full adult outside of the scope of like the education or whatever. That's when you had to like look in to start paying for it. So most people I know did their 2 or 3 years at college and like didn't have to pay for any of it. So
Oh, that's sick. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I wish it was like that over here, but yeah, no, they here. I mean, dude, the government loves charging whatever they can. Even books, dude. A book for a college course is like maybe $200, 300 just to get the books now. Um,
mm,
there's workarounds where you could buy like used ones from other people online, but yeah, dude, it's college over here in the States is pretty rough, and I mean, yeah, and then I have friends that do get good jobs, but they have. I mean, yeah, that's the one thing. They're still paying off their student loans, and you pay those. Like my uncle finished his college degree 15 years ago. He's still paying his loans. So that's
damn.
yeah, that's kind of like how it is in the States. I mean, it's a great investment, but they really make you pay for it back. So that's like the big difference. And so you mentioned the UK a lot. Have you been living in the UK your whole life, or have you ever had any time in the States?
Yeah, so I have been living in the UK my entire life. I've been on holiday to America, but yeah, I was born here in London, and then not long. I think I was literally less than a year old. My parents moved to the town where I still live now. So I've pretty much lived in the same place my entire life. So
Oh, very cool, man. Very cool. So do you like it? I mean, since you've lived there your whole life, uh, is it something that you like, or has it kind of like grown a bit stale?
I don't mind it. I mean, this is the thing, right? So obviously, with the kind of stuff that I'm into, like gaming, anime, internet stuff. For me, I don't. It doesn't really matter where I am. Um, so I feel like maybe everybody has this because I've known people from different towns, obviously throughout my years who went to the same college or were at the same jobs or whatever. But I feel like everybody who's been in their hometown for a long time complains about it because it's kind of that whole thinking the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. But like everybody feels that way. You just get a bit like bored of the place that you've been for so long. But actually, it's not a huge amount better or worse than the other towns and cities that are in like the super close vicinity to you. Obviously, in America, I know like once you start going across multiple states, there's definitely like noticeable differences because it's such a bigger country. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's okay. It's decent enough place. There's all the kind of stuff that you need to live. So,
Yeah.
and all my that's the thing. All my friends and family live here. Like my family still lives here. All the friends that I went to school and college with and stuff all still live here. Or if they've moved, they've literally moved like an hour's drive away or whatever. And I've pretty much always gotten my jobs. Like the place that I work now is literally like a 20-minute walk from my house. So
Oh, that's
it's
awesome. So it's just convenient.
yeah, exactly. So it's like obviously, I mean, I could live somewhere more, I don't know, quote unquote, like fancy or whatever. But yeah, there's nothing particularly I need or I'm missing out on by living here. And like I said, all of my friends and family are super close by. So yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, in the States it is a bit different because it's everything's very spread out. So, you definitely have some pretty not great streets. Like
Mm.
like the one I'm in right now, most of it isn't, but like the little tiny section that I'm living at is pretty okay. Um, but yeah, like it's a bit different. Like yeah, I mean right now for me to go see my friends, it's a 20-hour drive. So that's kind of
Oof.
like how it is. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, um, sometimes you got to move around, man, till you could afford a spot. And the place I'm at's pretty affordable, so it's pretty cool. And how's the weather over there right now? Like, is it starting to get cold?
Oh man, it is all over the place. So
Yeah.
the memes about English weather are all true. I can tell you that now from from an Englishman's perspective. Because literally in this last week, we've gone from having days where it's been kind of sunny and warm to like days where it's pissing it down with rain like all day long. Um, and that's pretty much like year round. Like we kind of have the normal seasons, but like all of those memes are true. Like an English summer can literally be sunny one day and then pouring down with rain the next day. So it's quite all over the place. I mean, we do get when we get our hot sunny days, we do get nice weather sometimes, but as we're getting into the end of the year, yeah, it's definitely getting more to that like dark and blustery kind of weather. So, and it's great for me because I say that sarcastically, but because I work nights and days in like a mix, but I'm always doing like 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., whether it's, one is 7 p.m. start or the other one's 7 a.m. start. When it gets to this time of year, it is literally dark when I leave my house and then dark when I leave work to come home.
Uh,
So I'm living the vampire life for like the next like 2 or 3 months.
yeah, no, I'm not a big fan. I've worked my overnight shifts before, and I'm not a big fan of those at all. I like currently my job. I get to wake up pretty late. I mean, I work 11 to 10, so it's 10-hour days, and I get to wake up with the sun. But yeah, obviously when I get off, there's no sun. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I hope these 2 to 3 months do go by quickly, and you could go back to
Uh,
a more normal.
honestly, I don't. I've always been kind of a night person anyway, so
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm very. That's why, like, when I first got this job, it was nights only, and then it was later on that they switched it to like switching between days and nights. Because yeah, I've always been a night person. Like, I've always been that kind of person ever since you get to that age where you have control over your own like bedtime and stuff. I was literally like, yep, sleep in late, stay up late. And I've kind of been like that for the longest time. And it's only really a few years back when I moved in with my girlfriend. That was when I kind of had to change back to a, actually being awake at normal times during the day. Because when I was working nights full time, I was very much just like a night only person. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's I feel that. I feel that. Okay, so all that, I mean, dude, that is sick. Because like I don't really. This is another great way for me to learn about different countries because like some places in Germany, here in the UK. I never left the States before. I've always kind of lived here my whole life, so it's always like very interesting to hear like how other places are. And I
Mm.
definitely want to visit, man. And that's actually one thing I was going to ask. So, have you gone anywhere outside of the UK?
Yeah, so I've been to America a couple of times. Um and then like I was quite lucky when we were younger, we went on holiday pretty much every year with my parents. Normally just somewhere like Spain, like to just like a hotel and then chill on the beach or whatever for like a week. But we did that pretty much every year when I was younger, up until the point where I got to being like 16 or 17 or whatever, and you kind of just stop going on holiday with your parents and start doing your own thing. Um, and yeah, I've been to couple of other places in Europe, but not like sort of super. I haven't really traveled a super amount, but I mean, I've been to a couple of interesting places on holiday, and I have been to America a few times, but I don't really travel as much anymore. I actually can't remember the last time I went um, on holiday. The worst part is actually because we haven't been on holiday together for years. We thought it'd be quite a nice thing, especially because my parents are getting a little bit older now. We were going to go on holiday to Turkey, I think, or somewhere like that. Just some nice, like, sunny beach holiday. But we were going to go, my parents, my sister, me, and my girlfriend. And then, of course, that was all arranged at the end of last year, ready for this year. And then we all know what happened this year.
Yep,
So
yep, yep.
that holiday got cancelled. So I was quite looking forward to that. It was going to be my first proper, like, abroad sunny beach holiday in
Aw.
many years. So obviously we're hoping to reschedule that either for next year or who knows, maybe it'll be the year after at this rate. But
Yeah, and like, how is it over there with like the cases and stuff like that? Has it kind of died down or?
so the where I live, it's not as bad.
Okay, cool, cool.
Like we're still obviously at time of recording, we've still got the like if you go into shops, you have to wear a mask. Other than that, like if you're just walking around in the town and stuff, it's like some people still do, but they're not like mandatory. And then I think the most recent thing is they've had to cases went up when they eased the restrictions a little bit, so they've put on some more now. So I think if I remember rightly, at like the time we're recording this, it's supposed to be no bigger than groups of 6 people, and only from like 2 households or something like that. But it's one of those things. It's kind of weird. Like I guess it's kind of like a privilege for me to have been in that position, but I haven't been super affected by the whole thing, because the job that I do, um, is like it's like a 24/7 support that's pretty important for the company that it's for. So even since the lockdown started, like my work hasn't been affected. Like I've just been going to work like this whole time. And they just obviously changed the layout. So like everyone was split off onto different desks with like masks and stuff like that. But like, yeah, none of my sort of like day-to-day schedule has really been affected. So like I've still had work, and then on my days off, like chill with the missus, maybe have to pop down to the shops to get the shopping or whatever. So the only real difference there is like now you have to wear a mask when you go in the shop. But I've been quite lucky where it hasn't really affected me all that much. So
Good,
I'm
good.
pretty lucky in that respect, I think.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like the same deal in my area because it's a more rural area that I'm living at. I mean, we
Mm.
have probably like 50,000 people living where I'm at, so it's not too bad. And the cases here never got out of hand. Unfortunately, I don't know, my luck is just horrible. I did have the virus at one point. But, thankfully,
Oh,
yeah, but thankfully, do not. Nothing happened. I was completely fine. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was ridiculous. I was like, man, I moved here to get away from the big city I was living at, so I don't get sick, and then I ended up getting sick anyway. So I was like, oh, whatever. But no, I was fine. I just took my vitamins, just stayed home. Stayed home for the 14 days, and I was completely fine. I mean, nothing bad really happened. Thank the God. Nothing happened. But yeah, I mean, other than that, yeah, like you said, I don't go out much. I mean, I'll just go to the grocery store, buy my groceries, come home. I don't typically like going out to bars right now anyway, so I'll just have a couple beers at the house with and I'll call friends over. But yeah, I mean, everything where I'm at is pretty safe, but I mean, other states have been pretty crazy. So
Mm.
I think we're both fortunate, in our spots. Yeah, we're kind of like in our safe havens right now in the world, and unfortunately, conspiracy here. I think things will probably get worse in the next month. I want to say. I
Yeah,
definitely
I think
think.
because we've seen, like I said, they tried to ease off the restrictions a little bit, and
Yeah.
then the cases like shot back up. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things where they don't really know what to do. And unfortunately, what some people are like is, regardless of what restrictions they try and put into place, there's always going to be groups of people that just won't do them.
Yeah.
And then that just
Exactly.
makes it worse
Exactly.
for everyone. Like,
And
so
we
yeah,
haven't hit flu
interesting to
season
see.
yet, so that's kind of like the scary part. Flu season
Mm.
has not started, so once we see that, that's gonna be big time issues. But it's fine. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, I think as long as you take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, that's all that matters, man.
Yeah,
Everything will be
exactly.
fine. Um,
Hey, they laughed at us when we were younger, but hey, never been a better time to have interests and hobbies that just require you staying indoors all the time.
YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's a great hobby. It's a great way of getting, keeping yourself busy. And I'm sure for you, I mean, how long have you been the masked for?
Uh it's over 2 years. Because I remember I posted I can't remember the date. I'd have to bring up my Twitter, I think, to have a look. But I dropped my merch when it was the 2 year anniversary of the channel. And that was a few months ago now, I think. So I can
Okay,
double check
okay,
here
very
quickly.
cool.
But yeah, it's been over 2 years. It's probably close to 2.5, to be honest. I will
And
try and find it somewhere.
and you've
But
had a good following all this time then.
oh wait, actually no, it's closer to
Let me see. So September 25th, 2017. Was that like the first time you uploaded, or like did you just kind of have like the channel sitting there? Because I know like that kind of happens a lot.
no, I made my channel like pretty much. I think I made it like maybe a week before I posted the first video. So
Oh, okay, okay.
because obviously the name of like the channel and stuff I sort of came up with like literally right before I jumped into starting the whole thing. Yeah, it's actually longer than I thought. So November is my like year anniversary type thing. So we're actually only a month away from it being 3 years. So
Oh, dude,
that's
that's
pretty
sick.
crazy.
That's sick. And I mean, you have a good following, man. I mean, you're about to hit that 7,000 sub mark. And I'll
Yeah, I'm
always
like
say this with the no cap. I do think you deserve a lot more for all the work that
yeah,
you've
it's
done.
it's interesting to see because I know sometimes like it's all down to like the algorithm and like sometimes you get lucky like early on, sometimes it takes longer. But what's actually crazy to me is I found out a few months back when we were talking about something else. But Tiger Uppercut Media started his channel pretty much the same time as me, and he's just recently like gotten to 100K. So
Let me hit you with something that's gonna be a bit crazier. Goresh started his channel last
oh
year.
yeah, I know. Yeah, Goresh's is even less. So I know Goresh's is younger than mine, but yeah, it's kind of crazy that Tiger and I started ours at the same time. But again, it's there's a lot of factors. I don't let it like get to me or anything because I know like even I don't know what his early videos were like because obviously when he first started his channel, I didn't know who he was at the time. But like to me, ever since the first Tiger video that I ever saw, like his production value is super high. He's always been using like the green screen with like the face cam and stuff, which I know people like. Um, and yeah, when I started my channel, it was very much like bare bones. I could barely afford like the thing that I needed to get to plug my phone in to actually record like the game footage and stuff. So it's it's just one of those things. It's interesting to me that the growths have been so vastly different, but I know there's so many like various explanations and all that sort of stuff that it's not something that I let get to me, because I feel like it's very difficult to be in content creation if stuff like that like really gets to you, because you're going to
Yeah.
have a long time, especially when you're first started to try and like grow a channel. I know I'm not going to name like anyone in particular, but like I've known people in the time that I've been in the community who like seeing those low numbers or whatever for like a couple of weeks in a row, it like really gets to them, and they'll you know,
Quit.
either give up or just like dial back or whatever, and then like they come back like a little bit later and sort of try and kickstart it again, but like that in itself, in and of itself, like damages your growth as well. Because I remember Truth says it all the time, and I saw him say it like when I'd early into starting my channel, even though he didn't specifically say it to me because we didn't know each other then. But yeah, just the daily grind, like try and put up a video every day is like the thing that sort of I took from some of these bigger guys when I was within the first like 3 or 4 months of my channel. So if you look back to my earliest videos, some of them sometimes are like 2 or 3 days apart, and then it hits a point a few months in where I think I literally go, I think the only time was I was on holiday or something, but I literally went like a full year without missing like a daily upload. And that's something I still try and stick to now. Although now, obviously, I've got I've got my following, I've got my channel, like I've got my sort of everything's running nice and smoothly. So if I get a day where I'm like really busy with IRL stuff, and I don't have like a super good idea for a video, I can miss a day here or there, even though I know I shouldn't. But for the most part, I still stick to that daily uploads schedule. And I think that's something that really helps out with your growth overall. So it's definitely something I'd recommend for people when you get into content creation. You want to try and keep that grind going, because you never know when that one video is going to be the one that randomly gets picked up by the algorithm. So
Yeah, dude. No, it's funny that you say that because that I actually listened to Truth's advice as well back then, because I started my channel and at the end of May was the first time I uploaded, and the number one thing that he always said was do multiple uploads.
yeah.
And till this day, I've had, to give you an example, I've had more 7-day uploads than one. I upload like a madman, dude. Like I just don't stop. In 3.5 months, I've posted over 500 videos.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how I do things. I tried popping out 100 videos every month or more, actually, and the growth does help. Um, because what ends up happening, what's happened with me now, it's that my sub count isn't like no, don't get me wrong. I mean, last month was a pretty big jump for me, especially when you're smaller. I jumped up like 200 subs last month from like all the uploads. Um, what really helps more is to watch time from multiple videos, because so many people get scared of that watch time number. And if you like you say, if you just upload a lot, dude, you could hit that pretty quickly. Like right now, I just hit 2,000 hours of watch time. Um, Unfortunately, I don't have, I'm not close to that 1,000 mark yet, but hopefully in time I will be. But the more you upload, the better your watch time gets, and like the more people watch your stuff, the more and it definitely helps. And I'm sure you have seen that on your channel as well, that your watch time definitely increases a lot more with the vigorous amount of uploads. Oh, all right, yeah, guys, we are back. The math is a very sweet guy, I gotta say, the very least. And yes, we were just talking about watch time. So, um, how was your watch time like when you originally started?
So it's weird because obviously at first when I started, I didn't know a huge amount about like the analytics and what ones were important. So watch time wasn't really something that I looked at, because I guess when you first start up a channel and you don't really know what you're doing, it's kind of just the views and the subs that you're looking at. And so even now, like my watch time, obviously it's improved. I feel like it slowly improves over time, just in general. But like there's for me specifically that I don't necessarily know exactly what to do with that information. So like one of the things that I know people have started doing, and I've started doing it in some of my videos now as well, is you get the thing with like the little sub box like pops up with the mouse button clicks the subscribe to try and like give people that little visual cue of like, hey, you should subscribe. So I've been using my sort of watch time analytics to sort of decide where to put that in the video, because I feel like, because even some of my like shorter videos or longer videos that people maybe don't want to watch the whole thing, once you work out your sort of average view time, I always try and slide it in around there. So even if someone's going to maybe stop watching the video not long after that, they'll see that little prompt come up, and then maybe that will maybe that'll be the thing that jogs their memory to get them to subscribe. Who knows? But yeah, the analytics thing, I'm not like, still not huge on it even after all this time, which I guess is maybe bad, but
No, no. I mean, you're still doing great, man. I mean, you still have a good following. I'm sure you get, I'm sure your numbers are good, man.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've always like, and I know people say this all the time about making content, but like, I have fun making content. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And I make my videos in the way that I want to make them. And I mean, I'm not saying that they're perfect. There's always room for improvement. But like, I'm not going to look at, say, like the analytics and then be like, oh, I need to completely change how I'm like making my videos. Because, like you say, whilst I might not be the most successful, it's obviously working for, the core like group of people that I have. And then I feel like every time I get an opportunity to like open up to a bigger audience, like when I collab with somebody, or like a big one for me was when all the Super Battle Road stuff come out recently. Once I get that opportunity to get like a few more eyes on the channel, I always do see like a pretty decent spike in growth. So it's kind of just got to keep getting myself out there, try and get those lucky videos that hit the algorithm. Because I actually have, I can't remember if we talked about it in our 59 gaming interview or not, because I swear I talked about it with somebody recently, but I have a video on my channel. It's still the most viewed video on my channel. It went up before I had 500 subs, and for some reason it just blew up. Like, it must have got put into the algorithm, because within the first like week, or maybe even like 4 or 5 days, it had like 20k views.
Oh my
and like,
gosh.
and like I say, this is back before I had like even 500 subs. It was literally when the STR Rage Vegeta and Bulma came out on global, because it was a global first. They brought out that AGL free to play version. And so I just made a video using like a free to play AGL team to take on the Prime Battle Frieza event. So I didn't think it was even that particularly like interesting or like special of a video. I just thought it was a cool little run to do. And then, yeah, for whatever reason, like that video blew up and is still the most viewed video on my channel.
Dude, that's
And
crazy.
it's like the first person I ever collabed with. So shout out to a guy called Try. He doesn't do YouTube anymore, but he was the first person I ever collabed with. We did a couple of races and summon videos and stuff together. He found my channel because that video came up in his recommended, and it was like, oh, this video has a ton of views and I have no idea who this person is. Like, so looked at my channel and then, yeah, messaged me. And yeah, he was the first person I ever collabed with, and it came off the back of that video. So sometimes you just gotta get lucky with the algorithm, which is annoying because you have no control over it. But yeah, you just kind of gotta keep up the grind.
Yeah, you
And
kind of have to just hope that the algorithm picks you up.
yeah.
Which, yeah, I had one video hit the algorithm. I've had a couple hit like 2,000 views, but the biggest one, which was like the whoa, was like one of my videos hit 16,000 views, and that was definitely like the biggest growth I've gotten. And then of course you try replicating that, and like it just doesn't happen because YouTube sucks.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
like, certain things I'll do with like the tags and like do stuff to try getting on the algorithm. Those videos that I do try to, I mean, typically I'll get like 200, 300 views or something like that, but it's not on the same scope. And I'm like, what does YouTube like? Is it just literally random? Like, does YouTube just decide like, okay, this is it, we're just gonna do this one, guys, and like that's it?
Yeah.
That's what it feels
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can like almost completely recreate the exact like settings and everything. Like everything about the video is in line with the most recent one that did super well, and then it'll just do a like completely different set of numbers, whether it does badly or just not as well. But it just performs completely differently. And I find that a lot with, especially for what we do, like mainly focusing on Dokkan stuff. The biggest one for that for me is like news videos.
Yeah. I don't
Because
know
like
why.
when news breaks or leaks or stuff like that, like if you're not the first, basically the first person to put out a video, it's just not going to get any views. So like because of the timing over here with the UK, a lot of the time news for Dokkan comes out at like 6, 7 a.m. for us. So if it's on like a day where I'm off, I'm not going to be awake at that time. So I'll wake up and see like, oh, like today is a perfect example. Actually, we're the day that we're recording this. When I woke up, it was like, oh, in Kid Boo's Easy A details were posted like 6 hours ago. So there's no point me making a video now being like, hey, look, we've got the details for Kid Boo because everybody's seen it already.
Yeah, that's what happened to me this morning, and I was like, oh, damn it.
So yeah, it's one of those things. Your like news videos can go either way depending on how early you get them out, and they're always the ones that we joke about it. I've tweeted about it before, like replied to other creators' tweets. Like it's kind of like I guess, a running joke in the community. The fact that like a news video, if you get it out at the right time, it can get tons of views, and it is literally just a video of you reading the article off of DBZ Space, and then the really interesting team that you put together to do a really hard run that took like 20 minutes, that gets like no views. And the news video that took you like 2 minutes to make gets like 5,000 views. So it's that's another thing. If you're getting into content creation, something that you're going to have to get used to is
The rates.
sometimes the amount of love and effort that you put into a video is not reflected in the amount of views that it will get.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, especially with Dokkan, because there's so many like Dokkan tubers, it just. But like people will say that, but I'm like, look at Toon. I mean, Toon blew up, so it's like, again, I mean, like you mentioned, Tiger. Like these guys are killing it. Like their production quality is amazing, but like there's still like hope, right? There's hope for like the smaller guys to get to that point. I think a lot of it just comes down to the algorithm, dude. Sometimes
Yeah,
YouTube will just
exactly.
push, like, decide to be like, okay, we're gonna give you a chance. Let's start throwing everything out all at once. So that's kind of like, YouTube's kind of crappy in that sense because it's not like it's not consistent. It's just random. Like some videos that you don't,
Yeah.
videos that you think will get a lot of views don't get a lot of views, and that's like the ones that hurt. You're just like, damn, dude, what do I got to do? But at the end of the day, you gotta do this for the hobby. You have to do this for the friendships that you make on here. You have to do this for your passion for Dragon Ball. Um, Numbers are important. Of course, making money is also important on here. Obviously, that's always like an end goal. But if your sole purpose on YouTube is to make money, or your sole purpose is just for views, you're not gonna have a good time. Like you said, those guys quit, right? And or they either quit
Yeah.
or came back, and that ends up hurting your channel even more because if you stop uploading, YouTube say, okay, well, you didn't want to suffer, so we're going to stop, recommending you at all. And
Yeah.
that's typically what happens. And you can't really get beaten up about it, man. I mean, it does hurt.
Exactly.
It does hurt, but again, once you hit 1,000 subs, it doesn't matter if your views are a little not the greatest. You still get some type of money. So
Yeah, exactly. Because for me, one of the things like I always said, like I'm not a huge whale, but I've always been very open with like the people in my community and stuff like that. Like when I get donations on stream, and obviously the fact that my channel's been monetized for I don't know how long now. But like all of that money just goes back into the channel because I'm not at a point where, like I say, it can be like a full-time job for me. And that's the interesting thing when I've spoken to people who obviously don't do YouTube themselves, who even maybe are still in like the Dokkan community and stuff. I think sometimes people overestimate like how much money you actually make from YouTube because like a channel that my size, it isn't a huge amount. Because I had somebody say to me, even back like when I was at like 3 or 4 thousand subs, someone was like, "Oh, well, it's okay for you because YouTube pays for all your stones." So it's like, oh no, no, it doesn't.
yeah, you don't get paid that
so,
much. Yeah, I
so
think
it,
it's
it certainly helps, and that's the main thing. Is like if I can, because obviously, if you're someone who's into gacha games, whether you make content or not, you know that unless you are someone who can stick to being fully free to play, that's like a certain amount of money that you're investing like every month in the game that you play. And so for me, it was always just a nice, like, oh, well, if I can make a little bit of that money back, maybe one day get to the point where it covers all of it. Because, like I say, I'm still not like a huge whale. I would say I probably spend like $200 to $300 a month on Dokon, and my channel does not always make $200 to $300 a month. So that's a good like example for you. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
certainly helps, but yeah, we're not at truth levels of I can do 10K stones on every banner and it's paid for by my videos. So
Yeah, unfortunately, that is like the issue with YouTube, man. I mean, a lot of people think like, oh, just because like once you're monetized, you're in. And it's like, no, buddy. A lot of these guys get maybe a couple $100 or even less, right? I mean, it all just
Mhm.
depends on your watch, like how long people watch, if they even watch the ads. There's a lot
Yeah.
of things that come with that, and so many people are like, oh yeah, like all these every YouTuber's flipping money. It's like, nah,
So
man.
because yeah, everybody's is it CPM? Is that the stat? I can't remember, but everybody's thing is different with like how much money they make per view. So no one can ever really say 100% like, oh, because I make this much, therefore this person who's getting say like 100 times more views, they're obviously getting exactly 100 times as much money. It doesn't quite work like that. But for me, like even in the last I don't know. When I first started actually looking at the monetization analytics, I was looking at, I think it's like $1 per 1,000 views was pretty much the average. But this was obviously back when my channel was getting like 200 or 300 views a video. So, so yeah, it's definitely not as crazy as some people think it is. Because like I say, you could be getting 1,000 views per video, and that's like $1. So obviously, nowhere near the oh yeah, I'm just gonna quit my job and do YouTube kind of level. So
Yeah, exactly. And that hurts. That hurts. The one thing that does, I mean, it does add up. That's the thing, like what you were mentioning about like the daily uploads. The more you upload, obviously those 1,000 views that you're getting every day adds up over the month, and then you get $30.
yeah, exactly. And hey, at the end of the day, like I said, as long as you're not someone who's upset, like that's your primary focus. Because, like you said, it's not worth getting into making a YouTube channel with the sole goal of because you want to make money, because you won't make money for the first like 2 to 3 years, apart, like a little bit. But yeah, if you're somebody who just loves playing Dokon and you play Dokon a lot and you want to start making content and stuff, like, yeah, hey, at the end of the month, that $30, that's an extra 91 stone sale pack. So
Yep,
every
exactly.
little helps. And obviously, in the couple of months where the numbers have been a little bit higher because I've done like collabs or, Super Battle Road stuff that's done really well. That little bit of extra money, like I said, it all goes back into the channel. So like buying a new mic, like finally getting a green screen, like all that kind of stuff. So all of that is and any money the channel makes just goes back into the channel. Like obviously I would love to get to a point where it was my actual job, but it's definitely a risk, because even if you get to the point, like I definitely wouldn't, if I got to the point where my channel was making the exact same amount a month that my job makes, I wouldn't just then be like, oh, well, I guess I get to quit my job now, because obviously YouTube can always go up and down. And then, especially when you make content specifically focused around one game, what happens if like 3 months later Dokon goes away? And
Yeah,
it's like,
that
oh,
that's like the scary thing, man. That's like and I think that's why 59 gaming is like such a big deal right now. I think
hmm.
we kind of all know that Dokkan is a ticking time bomb, but I mean it's not going to end for years. Like let's be honest.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
crazy how like I mean the fact that it's still going now when so many gacha games don't even make it to a year, let alone 2 years, let alone what? The February will be the 6 year anniversary for JP Dokkan. So and the thing is, because the Dragon Ball IP is just so popular and there's always multiple versions of the same characters. They've moved into heroes. Like there's just like as long as they want to keep putting the work in, like Dokkan doesn't have to go anywhere for quite a long time.
yeah, yeah.
And I guess I'm lucky in the sense that this was the gacha that I got into, because obviously I definitely feel for people who wailed out on games that then after like a year or two just went away. Because I think anyone who's ever like once you go pay to play, I guess I think everyone's had those random moments like the shower thought or whatever for the meme where you suddenly think, wow, if Dokkan goes away tomorrow, I spent like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on this collection of JPEGs that now I can't use anymore. So I feel like everyone who's ever put money into a gacha has had that thought at some point. But at least Dokkan has hopefully somewhat of a nice long future.
Yeah, and I think it will, man, because I think this is going to be like the primary Dragon Ball game for a long time. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's making a
absolutely.
billion dollars a year, right? I mean, every year it's a billion. So,
Yep. Yeah, and
um,
like Legends, when Legends was first announced, and people were like, "Oh, this is going to be the Dokkan killer," and then like people like me, who I played Legends as soon as it came out, I just don't like it. I don't get on with the gameplay. So yeah, I tried it out, didn't like it, went straight back to Dokkan. I mean, Dokkan was probably always going to be my main, even if I did enjoy Legends. But yeah, Legends coming out didn't really have any effect on the popularity of Dokkan. And you could argue, I mean, I don't, no one I guess knows for sure unless they come right out and say it, but I feel like we definitely noticed improvements to Dokkan probably because of the release of Legends, because now that they finally had some competition, that was like, oh, we actually kind of need to start stepping some things up here. And that's where we started to see some better quality of life changes, the massive update in like super attack animation quality and stuff like that. So yeah, if another Dragon Ball game coming out, which was probably what would be the biggest threat to Dokkan, didn't sync Dokkan, then yeah, we definitely have a good bit of time left to go, at least.
yeah, yeah, and I completely agree, man. I think we have a long time to go, and nobody's gonna be out of a job anytime soon, hopefully. So, all right, man. So we just hit that hour sweet mark. That's typically when I end these. Would you like to have any closing statements?
Oof.
No, you're good. I mean, yeah,
um,
I always just ask. Okay? You don't gotta say much.
I mean, other than the sort of obviously, thanks for like having me on. It's been interesting. I always like chatting. I was gonna say this like a little bit earlier, I guess, but like it is interesting because it's one of the reasons why I like doing streams. Is you do get that bit more of interaction, and obviously people in chat will ask you various things, and it's like a good way to interact with other people and sort of get that little bit of information about you out there that maybe people don't know just from watching your videos. So it was interesting to it's always interesting to do something like that, and interesting to chat with you and hear your side of some of these things as well. So I definitely have enjoyed it.
No, and thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for giving me your knowledge about YouTube. I mean, your music taste, your career fields, and learning about the UK has been really, really interesting, man. And I definitely want to look more into that. But again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to get on. I know both of us have to actually start working pretty soon, so I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and cut it here, guys. So, guys, if you have not checked out the biggest Super Bad Road King on YouTube. I'm gonna plug all his stuff in the description. Definitely check his stuff out because I've actually learned a lot of my Super Bad Road tips from watching your videos, and thank you
Hey.
for that. So again, guys, check them out. Thank you guys so much for the support on these podcasts. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do these. So we'll see you guys in the next one, and take care.
Have a good one.